Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. I'm sorry if some of you are listening to a train go by, but well, it is what it is, and it is the space where I'm at the moment. So I'm sorry about that, but let's continue. So this is lesson 3 regarding agave. And in the previous video, I was talking about how agave is structured and the fact that, well, you have that it is a succulent plant, which means that it gathers water, and it was a main source of water for many indigenous groups, and how it's a suicidal plant because the moment it grows a stem and it flowers, it dies, which is really important, and it really comes into play in the industry when we are comparing tequila and mezcal. But more of that a little bit later. There are many ways in which, well, there are 3 ways in which the agave plant reproduces itself. The first one, if you ever have had an aloe vera plant in your house, you will notice that you have your plant and then suddenly you see little aloe veras all over. This means, and this is a way of reproduction, which is the rhizome reproduction, or which means that the plant, the raíces, the roots that it has, it will grow shoots. The thing about these shoots, or about these little plants, is that they are completely a clone from the mother plant. And again, this will come into play when we talk about tequila specifically. So the plant grows shoots, right? And it's a clone of the mother plant. And then what you do is that you take them away and you replant them somewhere else. I remember when I was a kid and my mom had her aloe plants, and we had to give 30 aloe plants to everybody when we were replanting our plants yearly. And it was one of those wonderful gifts that my mom would give people. Okay, so the next way it reproduces itself, and of course this is the better way, is to let the stem grow and let it bloom. Again, this comes into place when we talk about the industry. When you let the stem grow, the stem will take all the sugars and all the water that the heart of the agave has in order to reproduce itself. However, these flowers are the ones that are going to make the plant stronger. Why? Because you have the pollinators that, in the case of agave, most of the pollinators are bats because they're really, really long stems and they love the agave flowers. So, of course, they drink from one to another and they change genetic information. Again, sexual reproduction will always be the best one ever. Why? Because the plants have more fun, you have more genetic variation and more genetic information of the plant, in the plant, which is, of course, a wonderful thing. And again, it does come into play later on. And then the other way of reproduction is that, okay, you have the stem, you have the flowers, and then from the flowers you get also little shoots. And this is only in some agave species like Angustifolia. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in Arrodacantha, and I've seen it happen in other agave species. However, because nowadays not a lot of producers let the stem grow, I wouldn't know all of the varietals that do this. So you have the flower, and from the flower, just like a fruit, you have an agave grow, it falls, and nature does its own thing, and you have another agave plant. However, this agave plant will also become, or it also has the genetic material as its mother, right? Which means it's a clone. So as we see forward, and we've seen with a lot of, not only agave, but we have seen this with apples, we have seen this with so many plants. when you are not letting genetic material cross, the plants start to become weaker and weaker, which means if there's a plague coming in, right, it will kill them all almost immediately because there isn't the genetic material to make the plant stronger. This is a key ingredient in every single plant, but in the case of tequila and mezcal, it has been proven. And it almost destroyed the tequila industry because when the tequila industry started, they would only use shoots in order to grow the next agave. Why? Because they wanted the tequilana or the tequilana to have the same flavor. So they said, no, let's just use the shoots and we have to cut the stem. Also because if you do not cut the stem, it will draw all the water, which means that you will not be able to use that heart in order to produce the distilled spirit. And what they started doing in the tequila industry is that they wouldn't let this situation happen, this sexual reproduction happen. So of course at some point they no longer had really healthy agaves. And just to let you know the impact that it had in the plant, when the tequilana plant was chosen to be the plant used for tequila, the hearts used to weigh 400 kilograms. And when the industry started, in 40 years, the hearts were 80 kilograms. I mean, the yield is not so much. And also in the late 80s, early 90s, when a plague came in, most of the agaves died. Why? Because all of them were cloned. And what happened was that from 2 little agaves in the laboratory, they regrew all the agave industry for the tequila, which is just horrific. Of course, we have now learned from this, and there are a lot of tequileros that really love the plant, and that now they are letting this sexual reproduction happen in their own land, and they have a certain percentage of their agave that they will let the flowering happen. And kudos for all of those that are doing this. Of course, there are so many agave producers, small agave producers, that they, refuse to only plant tequilana, and we will talk about that in the next video, that they refused to plant tequilana and they kept on growing their own species or wild species in their land. And this is really, really important because without those small producers, without those people that understood the agave and understood the land, we would be at a huge loss of flavor. So see you in the next video.